I'm Avaris. This is Under the Thorns, a visual novel, and today we are doing Chapter 10. Sinned. My breath hitched at the startling choice of words. The sip of tea seized in the recesses of my throat, compelling a series of spasmodic coughs. Brandon, with a sigh that resonated through the room, unfurled his eyes, emerging from the depths of contemplation.
If I am to discuss my sins, I cannot omit the tale of Isabella.
Lady Isabella was Mr. Robert's spouse, correct?
And Edward's mother.
The skilled painter, whose artistic prowess translated the enchanting landscapes of her coastal home onto grand canvases, also assumed the pivotal role of gifting Edward the protective pendant to counter the impending curse. Deliberately, I placed my teacup down, engrossed in Brandon's continuing tale.
Hair as white as platinum, eyes as blue as the ocean, skin as white as mercury. She was beautiful, to say the least.
A lady possessing immense elegance, encapsulating profound sophistication within her polished beauty. As her presence unfolded and took form, she evoked parallels with Edward. It crossed my mind that Edward likely inherited more from his mother, Isabella, than his father, Robert. Brandon continued to weave the tale of the couple's initial encounter. Nestled in an affluent but academically deficit hometown, the brothers, Robert and Brandon, stood out as intellectual beacons. They bore the weight of lofty expectations, however. It was these very expectations that provided the impetus for the brothers to venture into the city, seeking quality education.
The first person of our age we encountered there was Isabella.
So you all attended the same academy?
Alas, it only made Robert lovesick more and more.
Lovesick?
Isabella's family hailed from the maternal side of the royal family.
Robert's affection for Isabella blossomed from their initial encounter, evolving into an enduring love. However, the sentiments of Brandon and those in his vicinity harbored a notable lack of optimism. Isabella's lineage boasted revered titles, while her siblings wielded potent influence on political and social spheres. Rumors alluded to an impending betrothal between Isabella and the prince, despite her marginal seniority. As one not of noble standing, the intricacies of these matters eluded my full comprehension. I promptly shrugged in response. Marrying her must have presented its challenges.
I am uncertain whether I should credit it to his unyielding determination.
As Brandon recounted, Robert spared no effort in orchestrating various events at the manor to capture her attention. These occasions ranged from the jubilant festivities of New Year's parties and elegant balls to the more solemn gatherings like charity fundraisers and funerals for family graves within the estate. The young gentleman, assuming the role of host, not only curated lavish parties but also tended to the gardens, expressing a consistent desire for Isabella's presence. The young lady, despite the spatial separation, steadfastly accepted invitations to grace the manor with her presence. That's truly romantic.
They indeed made for an exquisite couple.
His gaze lingered on the vast expanse, obscured by a contemplative mist as though he traversed the realms of a past moment described. The culmination arrived when the young lady, a figure universally upheld with reverence, gracefully intertwined her fingers with Robert's. This catalyzed a tidal wave of revelry and joy throughout the manor, with wishes of eternal happiness echoing through its halls. Brandon, too, became a participant in this communal celebration. Enveloped in the unfolding narrative, I found myself in a state of quiet bewilderment, hand delicately veiling my mouth before cautiously posing a question. So her late lady's death was
attributed to a plague.
In the midst of a widespread plague, death swept through communities, claiming numerous lives. However, the brunt of the fatalities fell upon the less privileged, lacking access to medical resources. Hence, the assertion that Lady Isabella perished from the plague raised legitimate doubts. Sensing my contemplation, Brandon conveyed his insights in a subdued tone.
She could have survived had she taken the prescribed medication, but Isabella refused to do so.
Why?
Because the fetus in her womb, Edward, was likely to die.
But one would have prioritized their life above all else.
I'd agree, but I can't fathom the thoughts of a deceased person.
Brandon's assertion stands correct. The musings of Lady Isabella remain inscrutable, beyond our realm of understanding. We are left only with conjecture and speculation. He sighed deeply and delicately massaged the corners of his eyes.
Meanwhile, the disease had evolved to a stage where the symptoms were beyond control. Robert was willing to go to any lengths to save Isabella, who was carrying Edward.
Brandon perceived an entire realm of curses, demonic summoning, and purported superstitions accumulating in Robert's study. Despite his earnest efforts to dissuade Robert, the latter persistently advanced, akin to a racehorse enduring relentless whipping. A mournful sob emanated as the tale reached its conclusion. So, Mr. Robert initiated the curse.
Yes, eventually. Robert made a pact with the devil, offering the purest soul.
But Lady Isabella died nonetheless. In the moment our eyes locked, Brandon's gaze tinged with red, an agonizing pulse reverberated through my head. The realization of Brandon's departure from the manor dawned upon me, stroking an undercurrent of fury. Lady Isabella's demise condemned Edward to perpetual confinement within these walls. The extent of sacrifice for Robert's avarice eluded comprehension, as did the duration squandered in Brandon's silence. A seismic surge of rage consumed my entire being, inducing an involuntary tremor. You're such a coward!
I am.
If this was the truth, you should have told Edward sooner.
You're correct, Clara.
Then we could have resolved this matter earlier.
I simply lacked the courage.
Veiling his face with both hands, a guttural groan escaped him, a futile lament against the inexorable forces at play. The looming specters of Robert's descent into madness and the burden of guilt stood as insurmountable foes. Would the abandonment of the manor have granted him respite? Alas, no. It would have amounted to a fleeting reprieve, a daily ordeal, an unrelenting torment. The curse of Robert's blind love wove a clandestine tapestry of discontent, ensnaring all within its web. My love for the manor, its people, and though humbly expressed for Edward, precluded any desire for further anguish to emanate from the manor's affairs. Brandon, I want to break the curse of the manor. A stern countenance settled upon Brandon as my words permeated the air. In his eyes a conviction resonated, a belief in the insurmountable nature of the impending task.
You believe you're the sole individual who has attempted this. I've made numerous attempts and met with failure.
But it's different now. Edward is showing progress.
If you make a mistake, you could lose your life.
If I dwelled on that, I wouldn't have initiated this in the first place.
Consider Edward.
The tenor of Brandon's voice ascended in response to my unequivocal declaration. A crimson hue engulfed his face, eliciting a modicum of trepidation within me. Yet, succumbing to fear meant forfeiting any prospect of progress. The tale's closure lay in refusing to heed its narrative. I resolved to stand steadfast with Edward until its denouement, hoping for his lasting existence. Ah, a peculiar understanding of Lady Isabella's emotions stirred within me. Love, in its profound intricacies, sometimes steered one towards decisions steeped in self-interest. Reinforcing my determination, I redirected my attention to the intensely illuminated Brandon, restating my question. Help me, please.
You are...
I'm prepared to stake my life on this.
It's not solely a matter of determination.
Then what course of action do you suggest?
What?
Is there anyone else more deserving to break the curse? Brandon, waiting for the perfect moment might be too late. For an extended moment, Brandon's unwavering gaze remained fixed upon me, an unbroken connection forged between our eyes. The imminent release of words from my lips was abruptly severed, my attention captivated by the intensity of his stare. His palpable flinch disrupted the equilibrium as our gazes collided. The moisture-laden eyes, once tinged with regret, underwent a transformative vanishing act, reverting him to the familiar persona of a mature gentleman. A feeble chuckle, accompanied by a resigned shake of his head, underscored an apparent surrender to circumstances beyond his control.
Like father, like son, I suppose. They truly share a similar taste in their preferences.
Excuse me?
I meant you're the type of girl he would fall for, like Isabella.
My education and beauty fell short compared to Lady Isabella's. I brushed it off as another whimsical jest from a mischievous gentleman. Brandon clicked his tongue, filling his pipe with tobacco, all the while requesting my forbearance.
I can't endure it if I don't smoke.
His hands trembling, he kindled the pipe, drawing in the smoke. An oddly unpleasant fragrance began to pervade the air.
First, it would be best to investigate the location where the witchcraft was initially performed.
The location?
I bet it is where Olivia was doing her dark seance thingy-majig. The cabin in the courtyard. Robert summoned a devil in the basement of that cabin.
Called it! What? Wasn't that where Olivia's intrigue unfolded? Springing to my feet in incredulity, I deduced the answer. The woman who bequeathed the pendant to Edward, the nocturnal dweller in the cursed cabin. Olivia was the one casting spells from that enigmatic basement. I believe I've figured out how to break the curse.
Positive?
Yes. In fact, I saw Olivia there. I disclosed to Brandon what had remained unspoken. After my exposition on why Olivia was suspect, Brandon went pale and huffed.
Is this a mere coincidence, or has she returned?
What else happened?
It would take too long to explain now. We need to get to the cabin.
The motive behind the hurry remained unclear, whether it aimed to halt the unfolding ritual or forestall additional harm. Nonetheless, I assented, surveying Brandon's already perspiring and decaying visage. All right, then I will inform Edward.
Clara.
When I returned my gaze to Brandon, prompted by the urgent call, he shook his head. He indicated a reluctance to involve Edward.
Our first priority is to halt the ritual. If Olivia is indeed the true culprit, she may have already anticipated our next move. The opportune moment arises only once, Clara.
Brandon's concern held validity. Olivia's surveillance extended throughout the manor. Despite this, a conviction urged me to unveil the truth to Edward. I took a moment to contemplate. What should I prioritize first?
Do not give me the option to choose myself, please. Oh no! Okay. So, the two choices, of course, are we inform Edward first, or we stop the ritual first. The thing is, stopping the ritual first sounds like me and Brandon careening off into danger with the male lead nowhere in sight, and he potentially would have no clue what's going on, and if Olivia wins, then she can just kind of trot over both our corpses willy-nilly, and it's fine and dandy for her, and, she could just keep manipulating him like she has been willy-nilly. Because he seems to have quite a bit of faith in her from some of our prior interactions, if I recall. But if we inform Edward first, I mean, if it was me, I would want to know. And I would want, the person that you ostensibly care about and are doing this for to know what's going on and where you're going and what you're doing. I know the ritual timing is paramount and stuff, but it looks like it's daylight outside. All rituals happen at the witching hour of nighttime. I think we at least have enough time to say, hey, Edward, real quick, here's what's happened in the last few minutes. So we're gonna do this. I think it's important to tell him. I think it is. I'm probably making the wrong decision again that's gonna get us all killed, but we're informing Edward first.
No, we should have enough time. The mystic undertakings orchestrated by Olivia unfolded exclusively under the cloak of night. See? Whether to evade inquisitive eyes, or due to some inherent nocturnal nature, they were a nocturne of their own. As I articulated my reflections, Brandon, who had recollected Robert's ritual, substantiated my deductions.
Perhaps you are correct. Even if it's in the basement, the devil would be powerless under the daylight.
And Edward never had a say in the matter. He had always been imperiously informed about results every time. Perhaps it is time Edward was privy to the entire narrative, even if it harbors tragedy.
That sounds right to me.
Brandon nodded helplessly, discerning the determination in my gaze.
Then let's proceed this way. I'll head to the cabin first, and you go find Edward.
Understood.
Don't die, Brandon, I like you.
Following the culmination of our discourse, I reached for the doorknob. Suddenly, Brandon intervened.
By the way, Clara.
Yes.
Thank you.
He wore a wistful smile, as though liberated from an immense burden.
Thanks to you, I finally mustered the courage.
The courage to confront the past, to face the curse he had eluded. I pondered the gains that lay ahead for myself, him, and Edward through this resolution. There was nothing left but to nod and press forward.
Sighed, Edward. The study was replete with occult literature unrelated to my affliction. Volumes discussing the sacrifice of lives to salvage another and the transference of life energy. If these were what my father wanted to do for Mother, he wanted to save Mother. A mirthless laugh escaped me as I contemplated the hypothetical actions of a loving husband. Then, with logical deduction, I unraveled the origin of the curse. Laughter bubbled forth at the simplicity of the answer, the realization that everything now fell into place. Why my mother sought me, why she damned me, and why my father harbored resentment. It dawned on me that all the curses likely emanated from my father's actions, infiltrating every facet of my life. I sighed and closed the books. In that instant, an unfamiliar sound enveloped my ears. A book slipped from my hands, startled by the haunting thoughts of my mother. Hastily recovering the fallen volume, a familiar voice penetrated the confines from beyond.
Edward, are you in there?
It was a voice belonging to Clara. Exhaling a sigh of relief, I swung open the door to find Clara breathless, clutching the hem of her skirt. Her visage bore a troubled expression as she gazed at me. Urgently restoring the book to its designated place, I stepped into the corridor.
Clara, 急にどうしてここに?
Clara, what brings you here all of a sudden?
Mr. Brandon told me about late Lord Robert and Lady Isabella.
Clara's revelation about grasping the intricacies of the past within a brief span caught me off guard. It was a topic I had pursued persistently to no avail. Wow, that was mean, Brandon. You could have at least told him some stuff about his mom and dad. The disbelief lingered as Clara addressed me.
Brandon mentioned that Mr. Robert summoned a devil in the past. And since then, Olivia has taken over.
Olivia ga?
Right. I forgot to inform you about her.
Clara sought me out, revealing her discovery of Olivia's clandestine visits to a dubious cabin. The alleged location where my father, Robert, purportedly summoned a demon to resurrect my mother, Isabella. Acknowledging Clara's adeptness in uncovering truths beyond my reach, I contemplated her revelation, recognizing the unsettling gravity it carried. As if to downplay its significance, she uttered something even more shocking.
Regardless, Olivia seems to be attempting to cause harm to you.
The nightmarish realization unfolding before me stirred a complex whirlwind of emotions. Nodding in silent acknowledgement, I endeavored to conceal the shocked expression etched upon my face.
それなら、行かないと。
Well, yes, in that case, I should confront her. Following Clara's lead, we made our way to the cabin. En route, an ominous feeling of foreboding enveloped me, intensified by the blood-red hues of the sunset. Dismissing it as a reflection of my mood, I shook my head, though historical precedent suggested the reliability of such premonitions. Did we make the wrong choice?
ここが、その小屋なんだ。
So this is the cabin. A scrutinizing gaze fell upon the dilapidated cabin, a structure I would ordinarily overlook. Molds adorned the aged wood, which had darkened with time. Puzzled by my prior disregard for a building of such unattractive demeanor, I entertained the notion that perhaps this was yet another manifestation of Olivia's enchantments. A sudden bout of dizziness halted my steps. Clara faced me as she effortlessly swung the door open.
Are you afraid?
怖くはないが、ただ、複雑だ。
Not afraid, just perplexed. In a moment of contemplation, Clara hesitated, her gaze lingering on my expression before extending her hand. A subtle glance inside the door appeared almost like an attempt to rationalize her actions.
The stairs are somewhat high. Take my hand.
A biting wind swept across my cheeks, seemingly trying to impede my progress. Undeterred, I advanced toward the offered hand, a surge of determination coursing through me.
君がいれば、全部うまくいく。
I feel like everything will be alright when I'm around you. Clasping Clara's hand firmly, I embarked into the obscurity of the staircase. Downward we descended, traversing a lengthy staircase. The sense of strangeness and foreboding amplified as we navigated the seemingly boundless descent. Yet with the irrevocable decision to press forward, we continued our journey. Ooh. In a cavernous hall beneath, an altar reminiscent of a demonic cult's ritual site met our gaze. Bespattered with blood, it bore witness to a macabre tableau. At the far end of the hall stood Olivia. Her back turned to Brandon, she appeared to be recovering from a skirmish. Clutching a marionette, eerily mirroring my likeness, Brandon bore the scars of profuse bleeding. An evident stab wound on his exposed abdomen hinted at the nature of the confrontation.
Brando!
A reflexive exclamation brought Olivia's attention, and she turned, donning an inscrutable smile. My strides faltered as she raised her hands and opened her mouth. You're too late, Edward.
ダメ!
No. I wouldn't endure further loss within the confines of the manor. Without hesitation, I released Clara's hand and darted towards her, observing her determined advance on Brandon. Oh no! And that was, the end of the chapter. Oh my gosh, things are getting real. I did not fully expect that they would just play it straight like that. But yeah, it is just sort of all the rumors are true, the shadows are real, and turns out there was actually some like devilry and occult stuff going on that was all behind the shady shenanigans and why he is bound to the manor in some sense. I still don't quite know what Clara knows when she was like, I know how to break it, because I still don't, but we're gonna find out, hopefully, and I don't know if we made the right choices, but fingers crossed in the next chapter, all will be revealed. Anyway, hopefully you had fun, and thanks so much for watching. Bye!